If you've spent the last few evenings scrolling through endless tables of specs, watching video after video of people shouting about the best table saw ever, and still feel that knot in your stomach because you're not sure which machine actually earns its hype, this review is going to clear that up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I'm going to walk through the things that matter once the box is opened, not just the bullet point brochure. First off, let's talk about the situation most of us find ourselves in, a garage or a small shop where you need to rip a handful of 24s for a deck, cut a sheet of plywood for a shed, or make a precise dado for a cabinet project. You want a saw that can be set up quickly, stays reasonably still while you push material through, and doesn't leave a cloud of dust on the floor. At the same time, you're wary of splurging on a full-size cabinet saw that will dominate the space and sit idle most of the year. The Jet ProShop II 10-inch table saw tries to sit right in the middle of that sweet spot. What makes the ProShop II feel different is how it handles the everyday friction points that hobbyists complain about. The quick-release riving knife, for example, is a small but huge time saver. In a typical workshop, you might change a blade once a month, but when you do, you're usually wrestling with a stubborn screw and a thin piece of metal that refuses to budge. With this saw, you press a lever, the knife slides out, and you're ready to install a new blade in under a minute. That's the kind of detail that cuts down the "how long will this take" anxiety. The redesigned arbor lock follows the same philosophy. Traditional arbor locks can be fiddly, requiring you to hold the lock while you tighten the blade nut, which often leads to uneven torque and, eventually, a blade that isn't perfectly centered. The ProShop II's lock snaps into place with a single motion, letting you spin the blade off and on without juggling tools. In real use, that means less time wrestling with the saw and more time actually cutting straight, clean cuts. Dust is another practical pain point. Many table saws come with a shroud that looks good on paper but lets a lot of sawdust escape, coating your shop floor and your lungs. Jet upgraded the dust shroud around the blade on this model, and I've noticed a measurable reduction in the fine particles that normally drift up when you make a rip cut. It's not a full-blown dust collection system, but it pairs nicely with a shop vacuum if you have one, and it certainly makes the cleanup after a day's work less of a chore. Now, let's address the belt. The single belt design is marketed as easier tensioning and reduced vibration. In practice, that means you spend a couple of minutes adjusting the tension instead of hunting for a second belt, and the saw feels steadier as you feed a board across the table. The reduction in vibration translates into cleaner cuts, especially when you're making a long rip on a 4x8 sheet of plywood. That's a real advantage if you're trying to keep the blade from wandering a fraction of an inch over a 6-foot cut. Safety is a recurring theme in any saw review, and the magnetic paddle switch on the ProShop II deserves a mention. It's recessed and requires a deliberate press, which helps prevent accidental startups when you're reaching for a piece of wood or a tool. The motor reset switch being moved next to the power switch also makes it easier to restart after an overload without hunting around the base of the saw. Those small ergonomic tweaks add up, especially in a busy shop where you're constantly moving between tasks. The onboard storage compartment is a surprisingly practical feature. All the accessories that come with the saw wrench holder, blade guard, and the riving knife fit neatly under the tabletop. You're not hunting for the wrench in a toolbox half a room away when you need to tighten a blade. In my own setup, I've turned that space into a mini tool station, keeping a small tape measure and a piece of scrap wood within arm's reach. So, who should consider this saw? If you're a serious weekend woodworker, a DIYer who tackles projects that involve a lot of ripping and cross-cutting, or a small business owner who needs a reliable workhorse without committing to a 60-inch cabinet, the ProShop II hits the right notes. It gives you a 10-inch blade that's perfect for most framing lumber, a decent rip capacity for typical 24 work, and the convenience features that keep you focused on the cut rather than the setup. On the flip side, if your primary work involves cutting large panels, cabinet doors, or you need the depth of cut that a 12 or 14-inch blade offers, you'll quickly find the 10-inch size limiting. Likewise, if your shop space is cramped to the point where even a 50-pound bench saw feels bulky, you